potentially to come. This was neglect in my mind. I guess I haven't talked to her. I did see her at court when I testified. But I do have, I've never in my career, that half a century, ever had to think that somebody would do gross negligence in my mind. Now again, my term, not everybody else's term. And I felt she did this cognizantly knowing what she was doing. She was a senior escrow officer. We're not talking about a baby. We're talking about a senior. She's in her 50s. She's been in the industry working as an escrow officer for 25 plus years. My statement to you is, can your files stand up to audit and legal review?
Yes.
If you can't, you need to be talking to these guys, me, our legal. Do not allow a customer to put you in the corner. And if you happen to do it once, for God's sakes, don't do it again, okay? You gotta fess up. We need to mitigate these kind of challenges. Not that I think any of you would do it, but I know the pressures that are put on you. Don't do it. That's all I can say. Don't do it. Follow the rules. You'll be much more happy. I'm very happy that I morally can stand up here and tell you I never did anything like that. I can't tell you that I've never been approached, but I've never participated, and I'm very proud of that. And you guys have careers, professionals. You wanna make sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed.
I wanna make 2 points. I mean, you just never know what an action can result in. I seriously doubt she ever thought that the action that she took could turn into the loss that actually happened. And then the other point is, do you think she will ever work in that industry again? She won't, because that stuff follows you around. And, you know, you're all licensed professionals. We have to make sure that you guys are watching out not only for yourselves, but for the company.
Well,
And, you know,
yeah.
it's really important.
You said it correctly. It can fall to you individually. So, and the company's definitely involved with it, and your team may even be involved with it. So think twice, and if you have anything like that ever comes upon your world, bring it to light to someone. There's a way to finesse it. There's a way to talk about it and with the customer so they know we're not gonna participate.
And I think I tell everybody this, if you're not comfortable with the situation, you don't like it, use me as your excuse. Just
Absolutely.
say, my attorney says I can't do it, I wish I could, he won't let me. And I'm always there to back you up on that.
So if there's, yes.
This may be, I don't know, that everybody may think this is a weird statement, but what I came to years and years and years ago was, could I raise my right hand in court? Because people always say, well, I didn't. They can't prove I knew. They can't prove I knew what was going on in the back, but but you did. So when you raise your hand in court, can you honestly, without lying, if you believe that you shouldn't lie in court, say, I did not know? And if I could look at the judge and say, Your Honor, I did not know, then that's a different scenario than I knew, but I'm gonna lie in court. And that really was a very easy thing for me to determine what I was willing to do and what I wasn't.
Yeah, when you get into depositions and hard
It's ugly.
questions, it's ugly. I've been through several, none quite like this. So the state and federal regulatory requirements, I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, because I don't wanna be a Debbie Downer or an Alma Downer here so much. So, state and federal regulatory requirements, so we have 1099s, we have verb debt, my nemesis. I hate verb debt. Okay, don't like 1099 either, but we all have to comply. And guess what's coming probably to your world next year? We talked about it just briefly. FinCEN! You guys don't even know what FinCEN is, do you? Does anybody really know? I'm not even sure I know it. It's Treasury. And it is right now currently with certain counties and parishes in what they determine some high-end areas where maybe money is being moved that is trying to be washed or cleansed, bad guys. But you have to report, and there's thresholds. One county has a threshold of 50,000. Most of them are 300,000. So that sales, right now, the criteria is sales to entities that are all cash or hard money carryback potentially, and drilling down to furnish documentation through a portal for FinCEN Treasury. Is coming your way. Matter of fact, if FinCEN has their way, every county and parish will have to file on any sale transaction to the identified class plus trust, by the way. We're adding trust, they want to add trust. And that means they want also the settlement agent to be the responsible party for reporting. Now, we will come up with a solution once it's identified, how you're going to do it. Right now, it's for agencies with underwriters. Underwriters have to report. We have a reporting person for our family of companies in the areas where this is applicable. Yes, I think it may start at 50,000. I'm not, I can't remember, but anyway, think about that. So you now have a little understanding of FinCEN. Investors hate it, and the criteria is you have to have almost a new package every single time. You can't go off existing ones, because people change their partners and their investors, correct? We're gonna see how this rolls out. We'll know probably, when do you think we'll know, Russ? Got a magic ball there?
No, probably will not be this year.
Won't be this year, but we should find out about it this year.
Yeah, I think it'll roll out in 21. But we're gonna know a lot about it, and even if you look at the CE classes that they've been doing in Utah, they're adding FinCEN into it. So that kind of gives you a bit of a crystal ball that it's coming.
How do you spell this FinCEN?
F-I-N, capital C, capital E, capital N. F-I-N,
F-I-N.
it's one word.
Thanks for that.
Capital F-I-N, little I-N, capital C, capital E.
Does it stand for something?
FinCEN, financial something. It's under Treasury,
Okay.
US Treasury,
Okay.
which is, where 1099 goes. It's all under the platform of Treasury, which
Financial
IRS.
Crimes Enforcement Network.
Thank you, I should have known that, because I run it for you guys, it's out of legal, but I have a filer, and most of the time, she doesn't hit any potholes, but there are some areas in Las Vegas where there are a few potholes we hit with investors that don't want it. And by the way, no underwriter is going to allow this to go undone, and you're supposed to get it before you close. And then you have to report within 30 days. Very complicated, and we have met, ALTA, American Land Title Association, has met with FinCEN to ask them to reduce and back off somewhat. We don't know where they're gonna end up. There is a national filing right now, area with Treasury where entities can upload their LLCs for filing to hopefully minimize the paperwork, but nothing's working yet. So it's a very burdensome matter. We don't charge for it, but we are looking to charge for it if it grows. And by the way, it's grown quite a bit. It's in like Florida. Go figure, Colorado has 14 counties that it impacts. It's got more counties than everybody else, so I'm like, why Colorado? Maybe it's all the pot money they're looking at. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of.
One thing to keep in mind too is when FinCEN and FERPTA collide. I haven't seen it, but it could happen, and I think, especially up in some of the markets that we deal in, proximity, things like that. And so keep in mind when you have FERPTA is, you know, international wires and things like that. We don't run international wires through our bank. We run those through the corporate side, so.
Yeah.
So, not that we come up against that often, other than in Park City, but certainly it's something to be aware of.
Okay, so you're right, and I did mention FERPTA briefly. I just got off a hour-long, First American, webinar on FERPTA. I always think I have my arms wrapped around it, and then something else happens. The layperson is not going to understand it, if you don't get them and do them all the time. There is a procedure, don't ignore it. Just like with 1099, I'm gonna have to take my jacket off, guys. Just with 1099s and, FinCEN, there's always gonna be a lot of paperwork involved and requirements that we have to meet. Thank you. Okay, I'm just a hot girl up here.
And guys, we're never gonna do FERPTA enough to be familiar with it, so
Yeah.
when you run across it, let's use the resources that we have to make sure that we do it right. You know, we're just not gonna do it regularly enough to be really good at it.
And I do have a shortcut of what you have to do. It's just overwhelming when you first learn about it. And these are supposed to be written up in your contracts that there is a foreign seller.
And Alva has a FedEx address where you send the actual
I
check
do,
address
I
in
do.
Ogden.
Yeah, it's and it has fines to the buyer, who is the withholding agent, if you don't do everything correctly. So I'm an advocate in FERPTA for a, third-party person handling this. There are law firms and people that handle the filings and everything, so we can talk about it more. Instructions for everything in writing and for court. Well, now you know why. You never wanna go to court and say, I'm not sure, I just don't know why I don't have it. You don't wanna do it. Emails, what are you saying? So to piggyback on the email of what was said, the escrow officer that we just previously discussed put in an email that she guaranteed to the daughter beneficiary her note and trustee would be going on. She personally guaranteed it in an email. Don't do it. I learned a long time ago when I was a title officer, and I had an escrow officer once tell me, this is when I was in my early 30s, she said, Alma, don't promise something you can't deliver or control. Don't promise what you can't deliver and personally control. Agreed? Okay.
Just to kind of go off that point,
Yes.
you guys should never be telling somebody what their insurance coverage covers. Because you probably don't know, you need to refer them to the policy jacket, refer them to their attorney,
Yes.
because if you tell them that they're being insured for something and it really is not a coverable claim, that's where I think you're promising it.
And we had someone do that once and they were wrong, so don't try to interpret things that you don't understand or fully grasp. Next slide, company policy, everything must be completed closure file. Tell me everybody, what is a completed file? Anybody?
When the policy has
Policy's
been
been
issued.
done.
When all checks are paid,
All dispersed.
no, not dispersed, paid. Hey, clear. I like the word clear. Okay, better. Why? Because somebody has to work on those post-closing. It's a pain in the butt. Tracy. Yay, Tracy. Brought in the closing file, what to look for. John's gonna be talking about it. They say 1 out of 5 files, it has a fraud attempt. Think about that, 1 out of 5, nationally. So you really do have to be concerned. Third-party funds, who, what, when, and where. Another one of my pet peeves. If you receive money on behalf of a buyer or even a seller that has to come in with money, or somebody, to close a file and it's third party, what do? instruction. You cannot guarantee to the other party those funds won't be recalled by that third party without their signing a third-party instruction stating it is for the benefit of that specific party in the escrow transaction, and they have no recall of those funds.
Like gift funds, is that what you're referring to?
Anything.
Does the lender gift fund letter work for us?
I don't think so. It's to them, it's not to us. We need to talk about that, John.
Do we have a
because I see
form?
a lot
Do
of
we have
blank
something?
stares.
I mean, we get wires in, they'll just pop in, and we won't know that there's gift funds, and then it's like,
Then we're told it's good.
yeah, they're like, oh, hey, send me that wire, you're like, oh, that's what that's for?
Let me repeat this, even to
Yes.
lenders and beneficiaries, third-party funds can be recalled by the party who deposited them. They have nothing to do with your escrow until they give you an instruction that's released to that escrow.
So
Okay?
we need to get a release form from them,
From the third party,
from the third
for
party.
the benefit of
For the
whoever
benefit
the
of-
party it
okay.
benefits of the
Okay.
transaction.
We're not an
That's
LLC
clear.
sending money in
Yeah.
for
I gotta
seller,
think about this
and it's
because
his LLC.
Just go with the general.
On that, I would
Yeah,
probably
that's
be
never
a
happened.
little leeway, but an LLC that's got multiple members,
kinda what I thought.
anything. Just cover your butts, cause when you have a $50,000 loss, because if third party money's not being addressed, and the escrow is canceling, the seller wants the money, and the third party wants their money back, what's your obligation?
What do you think would be the length of that? I mean, that could be a year later.
Be a year later, get it up front, as soon as you get the money, identify it.
When in doubt, call John.
You better draw that form up, quickly.
Not yet.
Who are your participants in a transaction? How am I doing on time? And is anybody bored yet?
So we don't do that here in Utah, but do you guys do that in California?
We do it everywhere.
Do you have a form already that you
Yes, I
can
do.
send us? Okay.
I'll be sending it to John when I get back in the office. Or maybe ahead of that, I gotta
Yeah.
get it to him sooner.
Yeah, we got things going today.
Okay. I'm just trying to cover you, so your file's clean. And auditors may look for this kind of thing. Like, you got this money from John Doe, and your buyer's Mike Smith. How do you make that leap? How do you make the leap? Just because they were nice and wanted to put money in the transaction?
I mean, we'd love to know too, most of the time we don't know till the money shows up, so
And that's
that would be
true.
kind of comforting to have
Yes.
something to,
But it doesn't go just to sellers and buyers, it goes to lenders, it goes to beneficiaries putting in money to fund a transaction. The depth of this is really huge. John, you and I will talk about it and let go of some additional information. Who are your participants in a transaction? Review entity. I will tell you, very important, one of the largest losses we had early on was an entity hijacking. It's still going on for the tune of 2.5 million on vacant land, where the fraudster impersonated the entity on the Secretary of State in California. Paying proceeds, we talked about that. How does company policy evolve? Based on what I'm talking to you about. It evolves on things that we see, we catch, we get dinged on, and you have a lot of tools in your repertoire stuff. Matter of fact, sometimes I think too much, but I'm not sure we can say it's ever too much. Because if you have to defend that in court, what do you have? What do you tell the buyers? What do you tell the sellers about fraud? What do you do? You have the tools to show what you do. When to involve management, we've talked about that. We're going to post-closing, next slide. Instructions are signed and complete from the principals and the lenders, always. Good funds have been met. You guys have a good funds law. Orange Coast has a good funds law. Matter of fact, I think I just sent it to you not too long ago. Follow those, because some things take a long time to clear. And they can be bogus. Any last minute changes have been addressed with fees and charges adjusted and approved if required in what? In writing. If prices are changed, one of the things auditors are picking up on is an adjustment in the sales price happens, or you have to go to another underwriter and their fees are differently. When they pull files for audit and they don't match what the filing is, we get written up on it. So make sure to remember. And this plays into losses because everything we do, we need to know what we're doing in our file. I know you have teams. I know you're trying to meet every criteria. A loss once in a while will happen. Regular losses are not acceptable, and you are the master of your file. I think that you all are very cognizant and want to do the best job. So audit your files as much as you can. I know time is of the essence, but I will tell you that extra few minutes will make the difference. And any thoughts from any of you to achieve a good, complete file?
I think having a good process flow, there's consistency, and I think that by having a consistent process flow and procedures and checklists that you follow, for me, I've been doing this for a long time, and I feel like I don't turn out a single settlement statement without going through my checklist,
I love it.
and that keeps it right.
I love it. I wish I had worked that way. I never had any huge things, but I will tell you, the more that you can audit your file before you close, you can catch things. And we always have a right, because unjust enrichment could happen. Sometimes it does happen. We can sometimes go after a buyer or seller, but generally we don't, because we don't want to have problems with the customers and the agents and such.
Use your task flows that are set up in Proya.
Good idea.
Don't check them off at the end of the file.
So the next one is audit requirements. Does your file stand up for review? There isn't a month that doesn't go by in corporate that we don't have an auditor. We have best practices going on right now, which is giving us our SOC 16, what is it? 16?
1 and 2 and 16 and 18.
1 and 2 and 16, yeah. And you want that because that allows you to do business with national lenders. State, federal audits, ongoing. If a state wants to look at you, they're gonna audit you. And all of these cost money. They are on our dime, your dime. Underwriter audits. One audit, maybe an underwriter only deals with one state, but they have the right then to look at all of our family of companies, whether you're writing them or not. So we underwrite at least 7 or 8 underwriters, and they all have a task to look at us. Subpoenas, go to John. Go to John or legal or Russ. And in closing, we just defined what a closed file is. I think I did for you. I know you aren't as concerned about clearing checks. Your file needs to be complete, and any time you hold money post-closing, you're subject to potential loss. People get very irritable if you don't tell them about the money you held 2 years ago, and now you're coming back and saying, oh, I have this $500 in my file from 2 years ago, and they look at you and go, what the heck? So you don't look really good. Try to avoid holds. It's not 100%, but anytime you revisit a file, you're losing money because you're not proceeding with transactions that can close. Any questions? Thank you for allowing me to present today.
Real quick before we take a break, and then we'll get John going, is, a few things came to mind. First of all, plausible deniability. I think that's important to think about in our files, that we need to make sure that we can deny things. So if we say them verbally, or if we write them in emails or anything like that, it kind of has to take that test, the plausible deniability test. I think that's really important. Checklists, procedures, things like that. Back when I was a fighter pilot, I had this huge checklist. It was in my G suit. did I look at the checklist as I was going through the cockpit? No, you have your flow, you start back here and you go like this, but then you'll look at the checklist afterwards really quickly. Did I do that? Did I do that? Did I do that? And I can say that about a shopping list. I don't look at a shopping list and go out and pick one item. I look at it, get the stuff, and then I check to see if I got everything. So I think it's important that you guys think about that, because again, it's not the little things that scare me. It's a little thing that all of a sudden becomes a big thing. None of us want losses. I don't know if you guys know this, we do have a loss control system that Tracy works with, that I work with. We know exactly how much each escrow officer has lost on at any given time. And what worries me about where we're at right now with losses is not necessarily the dollar amount, it's the delta between last year and this year. We're more than double in escrow losses what we lost of all of last year already. That's a huge red flag to me that we're getting complacent. And I'm gonna give you a really quick story. This is probably TMI. This is, as a fighter pilot guy, it was always said that the most dangerous time in your airplane is when you're getting comfortable with it. So around that 300 hours in the particular fighter that you're flying. And I'm gonna fast forward right around that 275, 300 hour point. I'm over the Sea of Japan in the middle of the winter, doing an exercise, 2 airplanes. I'm the fighter, my wingman's the bomber, because we were worried about bombers coming from North Korea. And so we practiced single side offsets, which means we would get 60, 80 miles apart, turn in, fights on. One guy would just be a drone, the other person would come around. We're up about 30,000, 28, 30,000 feet. And all of a sudden, my HUD, which is the head-up display, started flickering. And so I call and knock it off, I level off, and to work with the HUD, you have to go all the way back here in the F-16. So I'm working this, I caught something out of the right side of my eye movement. So I turn, and the altimeter's going like this, really fast. So I was in about 120 degrees bank and 60 degrees nose low, which is about like this. I didn't look at my altitude, I just rolled, pulled 9 Gs, came up. Pitch black, right? When we got back to the squadron reviewing the tapes, I was less than 1,000 feet above the ground when I leveled out. So I had about maybe a quarter of a second difference. And so it scared me, obviously, but why did that happen? Because I didn't perform my checklist items. So I almost killed myself because I didn't do something. Now, we're not worried about dying because we have a bad escrow fund. But it could be a professional death. It could hurt the company. And so again, I know that's kind of, off topic, but it's because I didn't do something that I should have done. And so I think it's really important that we think about those things and how important it can do. And so what did I learn from that? Fly the airplane first. What can you learn from this? It's do the escrow correctly. Make sure that you're checking the boxes and doing things the way you should do them. Kind of like a driver's license or a pilot's license. Doesn't really matter. Do we drive the way we have by the letter of the law? No, we don't. I get that. We take shortcuts sometimes. Make sure, go back, check to make sure that shortcut isn't going to leave you vulnerable or the company. So with that, let's take a quick break. And again, thank you.